The psychology of conspiracy theories. For some time now, I have wondered why some people seemed to be more prone to believe in conspiracy theories and why other people seem to be rather skeptical of believing in conspiracy theories. I wondered if it didn't have something to do psychologically with maybe trauma in their childhood, or perhaps something environmental, like too much exposure to too limited of information, that they were not getting a wide variety of information. So I decided to do a search for the facts, to tackle it in a scientific method, and to go wherever the truth leads me. I invite you to come along. Come along with me on this investigation, and let's see if we can discover together why some people are more inclined to embrace conspiracy theories and others are more skeptical. Conspiracy theories abound, and there's all different types of people that believe in them. Some very, very intelligent people, and some very not so intelligent people. We find them in all walks of life. Politically, they're among the conservatives, liberals, and the moderates. Some surveys done of the US population indicate that 50% of people believe in conspiracy theories. These can't be just a bunch of crazy kooks. There's just too many of them. These are people that carry on healthy lives. They go to work, they raise families, they're productive members of society, and they believe in some very far out and strange conspiracy theories. A study conducted by Fairleigh Dickinson University found that 63% of registered American voters believe in at least one political conspiracy theory. That indicates that those that are politically active, or at least interested in enough to go out to vote, are more prone to believe in conspiracy theories than the general public, because the general public believes about 50% of them believe in conspiracy theories, but among registered voters, that's up to 63%. One of the reasons they speculate is because people feel disenfranchised and like they are not represented. And a conspiracy theory helps give them an answer to what they feel is going on. We also know that conspiracy theories are used to motivate people. So the political parties and the political pundits, the talking heads, they push the political conspiracy theories very hard. It helps them retain their ratings if they're in the media, and it helps them raise money if they're into fundraising. So those are some issues that could be driving some people to listen to conspiracy theories or to embrace conspiracy theories. A professor, Varun Swamy of Anglian Russia University, he's a social psychology professor. He said human beings have a very natural tendency to take in information that fits their own perspective of the world. And we tend to reject information or reject evidence that we disagree with. And we do that for a very simple reason. We don't like it when we feel wrong. This provides an explanation of why many people continue to cling to a conspiracy theory even after it has been thoroughly debunked. The 9/11 catastrophe is an example. There are many people today that still believe it was an inside job, although the theory has been completely debunked. Now, that's not to say that all conspiracy theories are wrong. I mean, it is difficult to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone when he assassinated John F. Kennedy. I'm not saying that it was a conspiracy, but I'm saying that it's difficult to believe that it wasn't. I understand there are some conspiracy theories that are more plausible than others. We know that the conspiracy theory about President Wilson making a deal with the British and sending arms on the Lusitania, which got sunk by the Germans, was in fact a conspiracy theory. The American diplomats denied it, and then years later, when the wreckage was found, divers went down and indeed found the munitions on the ship. That was a conspiracy theory. So conspiracy theories do exist. It's just that some people's attitude towards them is very skeptical, and other people are much more quickly prone to embrace them. And what we found is that one of the reasons those that embrace them will not give them up is this simple psychological reality that we don't like to admit it when we're wrong. And that's pride, my friends. Evidence suggests that increased exposure to the truth does not change minds, but rather increases resistance. Admitting one has been misled is a difficult task that only the most humble of people can accomplish. Now I ask myself, can I admit when I am wrong? Can I admit when I have been misled? And a reasonable gauge for that is how often do I apologize to my family members? Because I'm a sinful person. I'm a fallen human being. I'm not perfect. And so if I am sinful and if I am fallen, that means I am going to make mistakes. I am prone to be misled. And when I see that that has happened, do I readily admit it? And those that I am most likely to be wrong with are the people that I spend the most amount of time with. And those are my family. So in my household, it is not an unusual thing for me to admit to my wife or to my children that they were right and I was wrong. And I don't do this simply to move on to the next subject or to get away from discussing a difficult situation. I honestly want to reconcile the relationship. I honestly want to be a better person. And there is nothing about clinging to error that will make me a better person. Sometimes this also happens in my job, but not as frequently. I will convey a story that happened many years ago. My day job is that of a construction manager. I'm a project manager for a commercial building company. And an assistant of an architect that I was working with called me on the phone, and she was very rude, and she was demanding that I provide her some documentation. And I lit into her. I told her exactly what I thought. It was her job to provide me documentation which she had not provided. And the documentation that she owed me would result in me providing the documentation that she was requesting. Because she had not done her job, she had not gotten from me what she was looking for. Well, it didn't take too long. It was probably a couple hours that I realized that although what I told her was factually correct, I did not speak in a very Christian manner, and that was not appropriate. So, still in the morning, I called her boss, the architect, told the architect about the conversation, and apologized to him for that. The architect was most gracious. He admitted that his office was in the wrong, and they should have issued the documents that I was requesting, and that I was right. Everything that I told her was correct. And he also said that she had already complained to him about me, and that he had told her that in that business, they have to work with all different types of people. Some are rude and some are nice, and they just have to take the good with the bad. And he told me that she would probably appreciate it if I were to call her and apologize to her. So that was my next phone call. I called her, and when she answered the phone, I told her, I apologize for the way I talked to you this morning, that was inappropriate. And there was about 5 or 10 seconds of silence on the line. And then she responded and said, I don't know what to say. Apology accepted. No one has ever apologized to me before. I find it amazing that in a world of sinful people, and in a nation that claims to be the majority of Christians, that nobody had ever apologized to her before. Is admitting that we are wrong that rare? It seems to be. There was a study done in 2015 to see if there was a correlation between believing in conspiracy theories and how one views themselves. Here you can see the statistical data that was collected from this study. The data shows that narcissists are more likely to embrace conspiracy theories, while those with a healthy self-esteem are less likely to. This seems to support the professor's idea that the problem is that people simply don't want to admit they're wrong. People that are narcissists, you think they're smarter than everybody else. And people with low self-esteem think that they're just not that good. And perhaps the world is out to get them. What we see is in this data here is that narcissists are much more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. There is a high correlation between being narcissist and believing in conspiracy theories. People with so low self-esteem, there is a significant correlation, but it is not nearly as high as the correlation with narcissism. The view of oneself, if we put it on a spectrum, on one end of the spectrum we have the narcissistic extreme, and on the other end of the spectrum we have the low self-esteem extreme. In the middle of the spectrum is where we have healthy self-esteem. And so what we can gather from this information is that the way one views themselves, if they view themselves in an extreme way, either they have low self-esteem or they're narcissist, they are more prone to believe in conspiracy theories. Now, the researchers weren't satisfied with this, so they continued the study. And they wanted to see, does the view of oneself have anything to do with them being paranoid? And if they are paranoid, does that have anything to do with believing in conspiracy theories? Well, the data also shows that narcissists are more likely to experience paranoia, while those with healthy self-esteem are less likely. And you can see from the data here, 0.47 ratio shows that narcissists are significantly, that's a pretty high number statistically, of being likely to be paranoid, to whereas the negative 0.56 of the self-esteem, that's a negative correlation. That means a connection does not exist. So people with a high self-esteem, with a healthy self-esteem, shall we say, are much less likely to be paranoid. And then we see that people that are paranoid are more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. And then the top and bottom number there, we see that some narcissists, the 0.12 number, some narcissists that are not paranoid do believe in conspiracy theories. And some people with healthy self-esteem, although they're less, do believe in conspiracy theories too. So it's not that, you have a very low number there, but some people with a healthy self-esteem do believe in conspiracy theories. Not many, but some do. But we see that most of the people that are believing in conspiracy theories, they're either narcissists, they're paranoid, or they have a low view of themselves. They have low self-esteem. Many Americans believe in conspiracy theories, and many Americans suffer low self-esteem or narcissism. This makes me think of Jesus' words recorded in the Gospel of Luke, where he says there will be signs, referring to the end of time before he returns. There will be signs. Men will faint from fear and anxiety over what is coming upon the earth. And we see a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. In the political world, a lot of people call this fear-mongering. Oh, you can't vote Democrat. Fear, fear, fear. All these terrible things will happen. The country will turn socialist. It'll turn communist. The sky will fall. The birds will stop singing. And the liberals, the extreme liberals cry out the same fear. Fear, fear, fear. Don't elect the Republicans. They'll get us into war. They'll push the nuclear button. The world will end. We'll go to war with Iraq. We'll go to war with Iran. We'll go to war with China. The world will come to the end. Crops will quit producing. It'll stop raining. This type of fear and anxiety is spread through all sorts of media that we are exposed to today. And it picks up steam like a snowball rolling down a hill, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is one of the things that we have today through the internet and through cable television, as we have such incredible news sources. And fiber optics and satellite has made it so affordable to broadcast news from all over the world. So I can sit in my living room in Texas and watch news from Mexico City or from Taiwan or from London. And it doesn't cost me any more than if I was watching news being broadcast 20 miles down the street. Incredible amounts of information being put out there. But the information does not seem to diminish the fear and anxiety. It seems to be doing the opposite. Things seem to be getting worse. These 6 things doth the Lord hate, yea, 7, are abomination unto him. A proud look, but he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. It is interesting that we find this correlation between our view of ourselves and conspiracy theories. A lot of people that hold conspiracy theories tend to have an attitude that they know something that others don't. Oh, if you don't believe in this conspiracy theory, you're just too gullible. You're watching fake news. You're getting your news sources from the wrong places. You're not listening to the right people. They know something that the rest don't. They're just a little bit smarter than everybody else. It's pride. It's a chip on their shoulder. And this is an abomination. This is something that God hates. When Jesus came to this earth and was born as a baby, it is interesting. The Gospel of John records, he came unto his own, and his own received him not. It's referring to the Jewish people, specifically the Jewish leaders. The 3 wise men, supposedly 3 wise men, that visited him were from the east, probably Mesopotamia or India. They were not Jewish people. They were wealthy. The wealthy Jewish class did not accept Jesus. The poor shepherds were Jews, and the poor people accepted him, but not the proud, not the wealthy. He was born among them, God incarnated in flesh, and they passed up the opportunity to worship him. Later in his ministry, Jesus, speaking to this wealthy, highly educated class of Jewish leaders, rebuked them. And he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you, how many times I yearned to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her young under his wings, but you were unwilling. The rich class did not want Jesus. What is the point here. Why is this relevant to this discussion on conspiracy theories? Jesus identified himself as truth. He says, I am the truth. But the rich, the scholarly, the educated rejected the truth. And it did not matter how much evidence they were provided. The evidence, when it was provided to them, only made them more resistant to the truth, which was the same not just when Jesus was on earth, but previously when God sent prophets bearing the truth. And this is Jesus' point in this verse. He says, you who killed the prophets and stoned those sent to you. This was the intellectual reaction to truth, despised truth, because to accept truth would mean to admit error, and pride will never admit error, which is why God hates pride. Very profound. The chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well as Jesus. They were planning to kill Jesus. The chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well, because on account of him, many of the Jews were going away and believing in Jesus. What happened was that Lazarus died, and Jesus showed up 3 days after he was dead and raised him to the life. And he performed this miracle in front of a lot of people, because the funeral tradition then is after somebody would die, for days they would have people there mourning, they would hire musicians that would be playing instruments, and there would be great big crowds. So when Jesus showed up and raised Lazarus to death, or raised Lazarus to life, he had a very big audience, and word spread, and Lazarus was alive. And because of this, a lot of people were believing on Jesus. Now, is that not incredible evidence? And look how the Jewish leadership reacted. That they say, wow, he raised somebody from the life. Maybe he is the Son of God. No, their reaction was not to accept the truth. But not only did they want to kill him, but they wanted to kill Lazarus, because Lazarus died and they wanted to make sure that he was dead still. This shows this idea that evidence against a conspiracy theory, when somebody believes in a conspiracy theory, giving them evidence that it is a conspiracy theory will not cause them to disbelieve it, but rather they will entrench themselves. The Professor Swami, who we quoted earlier, says, our national tendency, when we hear, let me pretext it, when we hear evidence against a belief that we hold, our natural tendency is to rehearse arguments against that evidence. You see, our tendency, if I believe in a conspiracy theory and somebody is telling me why the conspiracy theory is false, my natural tendency is not to listen to them, ponder the information, and consider whether or not the conspiracy theory is false. My natural tendency is to rehearse arguments against the evidence. That is why the evidence will not convince somebody that a conspiracy theory is false. They have already decided what they want to believe. Just like the chief priests. They had already decided that Jesus was not the Son of God. Jesus was not the Messiah. And it didn't matter if he raised people back from the dead. There was nothing Jesus could do to show that he was the Messiah. And the more things he did that actually showed he was the Messiah made them disbelieve even more. It entrenched them. Jesus taught, so the last shall be the first, and the first the last. Pride is the first of the 7 deadly sins. Pride, the Bible says, is an abomination. Many people in the Christian church look down upon drug addicts and alcoholics, prostitutes, while they themselves are guilty of pride. The drug addicts and the alcoholics, the prostitutes, in reality, and this isn't just a cliche, this is what the Bible teaches. The drug addicts, alcoholics, and these sinners that are condemned by society are closer to heaven than the prideful, educated. Together we have discovered that indeed some people are more inclined to believe in conspiracy theories, and others are more inclined to be skeptical. We have learned that it is not due to childhood trauma, nor is it necessarily an environmental factor where they are watching too much news or getting too much information from a specific source that is bias itself, but rather it has something more to do with personality. It has more to do with narcissism or low self-esteem, which really summed up is the view of themselves, how they view themselves. And that provides a correlation to being paranoid or embracing conspiracy theories. The solution to this is not so much changing the information that we feed ourselves, but rather earning or learning how to view ourselves in a healthy way. And that can come through therapy and through learning how to establish a relationship with the Creator that created us and gave us value in that of itself. I do run an online clinic. You can find it at www.postumcafe.com. I partner with counselors, pastoral counselors there. You can find our site and look at the counselors that we have available. If you think that you could use some help, maybe you're going through a difficult transition in life. We also do spiritual advising for people that probably don't need counseling, but a little spiritual guidance in their life would be helpful. We also provide spiritual advising. Again, our address is www.postumcafe.com. I invite you to look us up. And until our next video, may God bless you and your home. These are the references that I used for my research. I will leave this screen up here just for a moment if you want to take a screenshot of it and check it out. As a counselor with a master's degree, I always like to provide my sources for the presentations that I do.